Hi there. Do you struggle to meditate? Me too. In fact, I never figured out the traditional method of meditation. I'm Susanna, and I'm a practicing spiritual intuitive. I help my clients heal their soul fragments and level up their life path. And if I could never figure out how to meditate in the traditional or the right way, I'm pretty sure that there are other people out there who are discouraged or blocked in this way too. And if that's you, I hope you find this video and that you follow along in the series while we work with your spirit team, and I teach you how to work with your spirit team to develop your own practice. Most humans begin to reach for the divine when they're going through something really difficult, and this was no different for me. I had a really strong spiritual practice as a young child and a young adult, and then in my later 10 years ago, I started really struggling. And I started reaching for the God that I remembered from those early moments, from my early spiritual foundation. And I wound up taking a ton of classes, nothing against any of those instructors. I learned something from each of them, even if it was, this doesn't work for me. But I remember one class in particular was teaching you how to meditate. And your spirit guide was supposed to come in and sit next to you and give you their spirit name. And so it was one of these phone call type things where everyone is kind of on the same call. And I could hear that all the other people were having these wonderful communications with their spirit guide, and nobody showed up for me. Not at all. Not even a little bit. I was so discouraged. I was waiting for this, this Gandalf type person to show up and give me their name, and yeah, that never happened. Just didn't. I was a complete bust, and I was so discouraged. I even started with the critical talk for quite a while. What's wrong with me that they don't want to connect with me? Why are they connecting with everyone else and not me? And maybe there's something I need to change about me. Maybe I need a cleaner diet. Maybe I need to be vegan. Maybe I need to not have that glass of wine. All of the things that we tell ourselves. If you've done that or you've gone down that rabbit hole, I want to assure you that it's not you. The connection that you have with God, the connection that you have with your spirit team and your guides is your divine right. Everyone has that default wiring. We just have to figure out how to get out of our way to make that connection. And hopefully I'm going to help you to do that today, or at least tell you about how my process started. As I think about it now, there were 3 problems with the traditional approach to meditation and trying to connect with God for me. And maybe those are the same for you, so I'd like to share them with you. The first is I couldn't turn off my analytical brain. I would be hearing the water pipes in the wall, or the wind outside the door, or even with earplugs in, I would be thinking about all the things I needed to get done that day. I just could not get my brain to quit working in this human plane so that I could move to the planes beyond the astral plane, where it's most easy to connect with God's source. So that was number 1 for me. The second issue that I had was an integrity issue, basically. I couldn't trust myself that I wasn't just making things up. And so even if I thought that I was having some sort of information or connection with God, I would think, oh, I'm just making that up. Like, I remember working with the pendulum and thinking, oh no, my hand is moving that. I can't trust that. I don't have confidence that it's not just me trying to change things. And they're showing me, my spirit team, they're showing me like a Ouija board. If you've ever seen kids do a Ouija board, someone's always pushing that little thing around. So that was kind of the integrity issue that I had. I wasn't willing to trust that it wasn't something I was just fabricating and making up. wasn't able to trust that it wasn't just my imagination. But I'm here to tell you, imagination is this wonderful, wonderful gift that we shouldn't dismiss so out of hand. We watch a movie and it transports us to another time and space. We can write whole novels or make up stories, and it is a wonderful, wonderful tool to help you to build the framework to access God's source. And I don't want you to be too hard on your imagination. And we're going to work on turning your critical voice off. And the last one, my spirit guides don't talk. They still don't talk. To this day, they don't talk to me. When they're communicating with me in the astral realms, it's with my clair senses. And if you don't know what your clair senses are, that's fine. I'll put up a little graphic that kind of explains it. We'll definitely go into this more later. But I was looking for communication in the ways that I understood from a human perspective with my five senses, my sight, my hearing, physical touch and taste. Those are not the ways that the spiritual realm communicate, or at least it's not the way they communicate to me. And so I was trying to hear something with a human ear and a human voice that was never going to be that way. The spirit and the energy of the psychic realm is vibrational, it's feeling, it's knowings, it's senses that we just have not developed as humans. And so because I was looking for the familiar, I missed what I didn't know. And we're going to work on that too. And so, needless to say, because of those three pretty major problems I was having, I was a complete bust at all of those early spiritual classes that I took. And I was really sad about it. I really knew, and I hope you know too, that my connection with God's source was there. And I just felt like I was the problem. And yeah, to some extent, maybe I was the problem, but there was no real path to help me to learn how to develop a new way. And so eventually, my practice developed out of something that I was already doing, and something I was doing that I was enjoying, and that is jogging. Don't get scared, you don't have to jog. I'm a type 2 diabetic, and so for decades I've jogged to help with my blood sugar. And at the time, I was going through some really intense traditional therapy, and my therapist had suggested a pretty common practice. He had suggested I talk to my inner child. And this is a fairly common thing. You can Google it, but basically the idea is that the present version of yourself is going to have a dialogue with a version of yourself that's in the past to help gain information or knowledge or some sort of understanding about what that younger version of yourself went through. It's kind of a way to build empathy, I think, for that time and space. And so I hadn't had a lot of luck with this, but I was thinking about it. And so I was jogging along and I was listening to a playlist and singing, which we'll talk about in a minute. And I was thinking about what my therapist had said. And in my mind, I just formulated a question to an earlier version of myself. And the question was something to the effect of, how are you feeling? And to my absolute astonishment, and this was all in my headspace, she answered me back. And she said, I feel scared. And then I asked her another question, and we had this whole dialogue. And what really astonished me and was a total eureka moment for me is she was giving me information that was entirely relevant to that space and time, and using language that I wouldn't use now as an adult. And that gave me confidence that what she was sharing with me had some real weight and had some real meaning and impact in my current life. And as I was reflecting on this and thinking about it, I realized, oh my gosh, time and space can just be a construct if we can go back and have a real conversation with a version of ourselves that has experienced harm or has something that they want to share, and that can bubble up into our current lives and drastically impact our healing and how well we're walking in this current life. And so that was a really big eureka moment for me. And it was just that one conversation, but I took that information, I went back to my traditional therapist, and it really propelled my healing forward. And I never forgot it. And in fact, I started expanding that practice, which I want to tell you about next. So over the years, I started adding other versions of myself. And I have a kindergartner, I have a middle schooler, I have a newlywed, I have a new mama, and they all sit around a circle. And as I go into my meditative practice, I check in with each of them to see how they're doing. And they tell me. And it's almost always something that's relevant to what I'm going through in this time and space. And it's from their perspective, from that time and space. And it's tremendously impactful. And so I created an AI image to kind of explain the layout of what I see in my soul circle. And I'm going to show that to you now and color in some of the edges of what this looks like for me. Now, this is an AI image, so there's probably some extra hands or feet in there. And when I see the circle, when I approach the circle, it's not angels, it's younger versions of myself. So on my right would be my kindergartner, and she's got short curly hair, and she's wearing a dress that she wore to a Christmas concert. And then my middle schooler, she's got the straightened hair and braces. She's wearing softball shoes and whitewashed '80s jeans. And then my high schooler, who I've spoken about already, she's in a real goth period. She's wearing black, and she's pretty angsty. And then my newlywed, who couldn't cook to save her life, and she usually wants to talk about things that have to do with my relationship with my husband. And then to the left of her at 11 o'clock is the new mama, the new mama that didn't get sleep for 4 years. And there's energy there for my 3 sons who are now adults. And then in an entirely other healing vignette, which I'm sure we'll talk about, it's tremendously helpful. I've separated my sons into their own space because they're adult men now and they don't need me to be a new mama to them. And so when I go through this meditation and this practice, I deliberately separate us out, and it's good for them and it's good for me. And then there's my young worker, and then my current self. And so this is what my soul circle looks like. And I'd like to help you develop your soul circle too, so that we can access the information that they have to give you, and ultimately the wisdom of your team, your spirit team, and God's source. One thing that I have to say is I find it really fascinating and confirming, when we talked about imagination earlier, that each of these versions of myself show up with details and with language that I wouldn't use as an adult. And also, my current version stops at about 9 o'clock. And so there's space for the future to the left side of me. And I didn't create this inner eye image. And yet, there's space left for future versions of me that I'm not even aware of yet. And I find that really beautiful and really confirming of the the divineness of this practice. And as you develop your own practice, you'll find your own things that create confirmation for you, where you can say, yes, this is really real. I'm not making this up. I'm well past that at this point, because I feel the benefits of the practice daily, and I know that it works. But I remember in the beginning how I needed those confirmations, and so I just wanted to point that out to you, that that's a confirmation for me. And so that's how I started developing my meditative practice. I started with movement. I started with music. I started with just the wisp of a spiritual thought. And from there, it has grown and grown and grown. And I really would like to help you to build your own practice, because I am on a mission to break down the rigid structures and false information that has kept people from their authentic connection to God's source and the divine. And so if this has been interesting for you, please like it, subscribe so you can see my next videos. We're going to dive deep into how to build your own practice and really break down those steps. This video was just to kind of give an overview of how it came about. Like, subscribe, share with your friends if you think that would help. And then there's a couple of things that you can do to prepare for the next video. The first one is to think about where you feel safe. A safe place. This can be a made-up place, or this can be a real place. And it needs to be somewhere that you feel safe alone. So, you know, not in a crowded mall. A crowded mall would be way too distracting to try to put into the practice. This could be a tree house in the Amazon jungles. It could be in a beautiful library in Cambridge with, you know, light streaming through stained glass windows. It could be a cozy room with a fireplace. It could be an unreal place like Mars. People want to go to Mars these days. So don't get too hung up on this. Just think really quick, where do I feel safe? Where do I feel safe? Where do I feel safe alone? And let your mind and your spirit give you the answer. If you're really struggling with this, you can try an exercise called handedness, where you ask yourself the question, where do I feel safe, with your dominant hand, and then you respond with your non-dominant hand. This is a good way to kind of break down that analytical mind process. So that's one. Think about that. Where do you feel safe? And be ready to have that as my next video is coming out, to bring it together. And then the second thing is songs. You need to think about 2 or 3 songs that just lift your spirit. When you hear them, you want to get up and dance or sing. It doesn't have to be spiritual. It could be the Macarena if that's what makes you happy. There's no judgment here. I've actually made my playlist that I'm using currently public on my channel. If you want to look at it, there's a lot of Native American music, because I remember a past life as a Native American, and those songs just absolutely fill my heart. But they may not work for you, and probably they won't work for you, because the songs that you choose should be specific to your unique human experience, and they should be something that makes you happy and lifts you up with joy. So think about 2 or 3 songs, and I'll help you make a playlist in the next video. And then the last thing, lastly, think about something that you do every day that involves physical movement. Something routine. This is not going to be doing dishes or folding laundry, because you're going to be thinking about whose clothes these are. This is something routine. Maybe it's gardening. For me, it's jogging, or fast, bouncy walking, as my family calls it. I call it jogging. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. Here's a video. see what you think. I still think it's jogging. That's what I call it. If you are in the city, maybe it's walking on a treadmill. And then my team was reminding me, we can incorporate EMDR. If you are unable to be physical, we can get an EMDR video, and we'll talk about that in the next one too. So think about those three things: where you feel safe, a music, and what kind of movement. They're reminding me somatic exercise, I think, is another thing that that you could do to. It's going to help break down our analytical brain, hanging on to things, and really get us up into the astral planes. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll put some bloopers on, some shots from nature at the very end, and I'll see you here next time. Take care, be well, and remember, we're all here to have this life experience, and I hope I can help you to experience it more lovingly and joyfully. Thanks. Bye-bye. They don't talk. When they're communicating with me in the astral realms, there's the nest, the bald eagle nest. It's got January 22nd, and there, see the mom or the dad. We're just keeping an eye on things. Right there. I think you can see the white because it's in shadow. Okay, I walked up the hill and you can definitely see the white on his head, or her head. Isn't that beautiful? Just hanging out. Hey there. Thank you for trusting us with your babies.